Good morning, Mr. Gordon. I think this is the first time we've recorded a podcast early in the morning, which is a nice change.
I don't think so. We did one when I was at work, and I did it before work.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I was in that little kind of weird cubby hole, and I don't think we published that on YouTube, but maybe we did. I don't know if we did.
No, I don't think we did. But yeah, we're here now, episode 8. We seem to be on a roll. I don't think there's anything going to stop us now. I think we're just going to.
Is that a song, Neil? Are you about to like burst into song? Ain't nothing gonna stop us now. Do 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 do. Is that our new theme tune? I think.
Yeah.
I think we should get someone to write us a theme tune, like a really cheesy piano thing going on. That'd be quite funny.
I'm sure Aaron Robertson could do something for us.
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Anyway, how's your week been?
How's your week? I don't know how we get to Thursday, if I'm honest. Like we normally, me and Neil usually record this sort of tail end of the week, and then we publish it. We seem to be publishing it on sort of a Monday morning. But I honestly don't know how we get to this point. Like, how do you get to Thursday? Like, what have I done this week? Like, what on earth have I done? I'm trying to think of things that were interesting this week so far. But realistically, just waking up, have breakfast, go to work, say bye to Laura and Olivia, go to work, do things at work. This week's been a little bit quieter in terms of, like, we don't have any podcasts or anything. We're filming. We had a filming day on Tuesday. I've been doing some, like, admin stuff where I'm writing, like, production manual things so that, you know, if I get hit by a bus or something, then people know what to do and they've got a production manual to be able to use, which is, you know, it's not the most fun part of my job. We also came up with something called the Procrastination Diaries. So I was editing that, and that's kind of going through a bit of approval to see if we can tweak anything. So it's like a weekly vlog, because, you know, for anyone who watches sort of YouTube out there and has sort of subscribed to the old school vloggers like Casey Neistat and Johan Olsen and these types of people, Ben Brown, they'd have like pretty flamboyant lifestyles, right? They'd be in all sorts of different kind of countries. They're like former professional skiers and all sorts of stuff. Like, Ali runs a company that has 17 people working for him. So he has certain ties to be able to do that, and there's meetings and all these kind of things. So it's not like we're off to Marrakesh for the weekend or off skiing in Biarritz or wherever that is. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? So that kind of thing. So we decided to try and change it a little bit, where we are going to do like capturing clips in the week. So I've got a camera that's set up in the studio, which is kind of there, ready to go. So I just filmed sort of bits and pieces that are going on. So we played around with that, some little graphic stuff as well. So hopefully that should be out soon. And then yesterday we've got a new channel thing launching, so the Part-Time Creator Academy. So I was filming for that. So I did two individual episodes with some of the presenters, and then we also had me doing some with the presenters, like assessing their YouTube videos and looking at composition and lighting and whatnot. So they were quite fun. And then today's kind of admin day. I'm editing a Gymshark vlog when we went up to the Gymshark HQ to see Steve Hewitt. And then tomorrow we have a bit of a team day thing to do. So yeah, that's kind of my week really. It's not been that great. Like apparently the concrete goes in our foundations. That's some personal stuff, which should be nice. Kind of interesting. Discovered today that we might need a new concrete floor, so that's a bit more expensive. A few £1,000. Just random. Just need to find that. Just got the back pocket. Sure. How's your week?
Yeah, as you say, you kind of blink and you're at Thursday already. This is my Friday, as I keep reminding everyone, which is nice. It's actually been a big week. It's
a monumental week, I think, Neil. You've underplayed that a little bit. Like
monumentally. I mean, there's two kind of life things that have happened. The bakery's opened up, so the bakery had their first day, and if this is your first time listening to this, my wife started a vegan bakery at home, and then they branched out to a premises, bricks and mortar. That's pretty wild. And they got a surprise visit from Environmental Health yesterday, unannounced.
Standard.
Yeah, which they passed. It went okay, but yeah, it's just stuff like that you don't really think about, you don't really prepare for, especially in your first week. But they're thriving. They're going from kind of strength to strength. There's been queues out the door. They're opening up this Saturday, which should see a big footfall. They've hired somebody. So yeah, it's going well. And then the second kind of big thing that's happened this week is Shark Tower, which is a startup I started working for 18 months ago, has officially been acquired. So we've officially been bought. And Gordon's known about this for a few months, and so have I. But yeah, we can now see it out to the masses. So it's been purchased by a management consulting company, which kind of focuses in professional services, consultancy type thing, and they want to get into the SaaS business. So my line of work is all about implementing the product that we sell into organisations. So I think in the first kind of 3 months, there's probably not much change, but we'll see. Hopefully the team's going to grow. We're going to get a decent office in Edinburgh. So yeah, logistics of that. It's been
lots of changes. The environmental health thing is always quite funny, because it's a thing when you run your own business. Like, I ran my own business for over 10 years, and you don't think of things as a consumer. You just think of the product that you get. You know, the cup of coffee that sat in front of you in the scone, right, at the vegan bakery. You don't think about the fact that they have to pay for public liability insurance. Yeah. They have to pay for the gas and electric bills if you sat there drinking your tea and coffee. The rent when even the place is closed. And even the things like the environmental health come in.
The rubbish. The
environmental health will come in and say you need all these types of procedures, you need hair nets and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, well, we got to buy all that. And then you're like, oh, it cost me £3 for a cup of coffee. I can't believe it. And you're like, well,
it's eye-opening. They pointed out some interesting things. So, for example, they've got like a nice wooden door thing, but it's not been painted, so it's classed as porous wood. It needs to be painted, and just little stuff like that where you just wouldn't think of. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's these things are going to get picked up, and they've always got to find something, I think, to justify their job. But at the end of the day, they
I'm not sure you can say that, Neil. I think you better keep the one set of people you want to keep on your good list is the environmental health. I'm pretty sure.
Anyway, they've passed. They've got the certificate. It's in the window. So
good, amazing. Did they get a 5-star one, 4-star one?
Oh, I don't even know if it's stars. So.
Oh, in England they've got stars. Maybe Nicola doesn't allow you stars.
Oh, but the crazy thing is, so Rebecca ran it for 18 months at home, and not once did somebody come in to check.
But that's because it's a small enterprise. Now you're talking like this is serious.
Yeah, I know.
So if you get something wrong, you're going to kill a few people.
True.
Let's hope not. Well, I'm delighted for you. You should pass on my regards to Rebecca. I think it's quite the pursuit. So I'm keen to see how it gets on. Today's go on.
I was going to say today's episode.
Oh, right, go on then, Neil. Neil's the host today. Sorry, I've been butting in. Go for it, Neil. Go on.
Life advice from a 30-something-year-old, because I'm my early 30s. Gordon's mid-30s almost. Are you 35?
34. I'm going to 35 in July.
So yeah, and this was really, I got this idea because originally we started this podcast to talk to my brother, but also to have something that the kids can look back on and listen to if we ever get hit by a bus or something. But we all...
Why do we always say get hit by a bus? Because, I mean, a bus is such a shit way to die. Like, why not get eaten by a great white shark?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Sorry, I butted in, carry on.
And... yeah, Gordon and I both consume a lot of content, podcasts, books, random things on Instagram. And I think over the 30-plus years we've been around, we've probably accumulated various things we've heard from other people or we've put into our own lives. And I thought it'd be good to just chat about them and get them down on a podcast.
Okay.
So, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think Neil's definitely right with that. You know, this isn't when you say life advice, it's like one of those kind of
we're not showing off, we're not like we've made it.
Yeah, or find it, or we've got anything complete, you know, we know what we're doing. But I do think there's like a transition period that you get, and maybe you experienced it earlier than me, but you definitely recognise age and experience more so when you start creeping into your 30s, and I'm sure when you're 40, and I'm sure when you're 50, and I'm sure when you're 60. You know, there's decades. You just start to go into different decades, and your priorities change somewhat. Your view on the world changes somewhat. There's there's weird things happen that you never even thought of. And I suppose most of my like advice is for my younger self when I was like in my 20s, and maybe I'm talking to myself. So if this isn't really, I suppose, this is definitely not for 40-year-olds, definitely not for 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, whoever listens to this podcast. This is definitely for like young, like 20-year-olds who are thinking about what they want to do with their lives and where they want to go with it, and maybe some of the choices that I've made and some of the things that I talk about hopefully help with that. Maybe. Anyway, I'll stop blabbering and rambling. The first one I put down is actually, it comes largely from a guy called Jordan Peterson. He's a psychologist, Canadian psychologist. He's got a cool book, 12 Lessons for Life. And one of his big ones is to be brave. And being brave can mean not mean many different things. It can be different scenarios. So being brave to some people could be skydiving, go and do a bungee jump, for example. But equally, it can be putting your hand up and asking a question. But being brave as well as, a lot of people continue to live in small towns and places that me and Neil grew up, which is in Inverurie. And it's very daunting to go to a big city like London. It's very daunting to go out in the world and challenge yourself outside of the group of people that you live with. But I think when you're in your 20s, you should be brave and put your hand up and ask questions and go and do things that might make you look silly and ask the questions that might make you look dumb. Go and start that business. Do that thing, move to another city, meet new people, go to places that you don't feel comfortable, or have conversations with people that may have a differing view to you. Literally be brave. Don't let what people think of you, what you think people might say about you, stop you from doing the things that you want to do. And really put your foot forward and just go for it. Just don't be brave, for crying out loud. You've got nothing to lose. There's a part. Sorry.
I was going to say it's pretty solid advice. And going back to your kind of ask questions, I remember even back in primary school, teachers always not got on at me, but was it praise? Was it just digging at me? But I always ask questions. Every second I was asking a question. And to this day, I still, even in the organisation I'm in just now, I'll still ask questions. I'll be the only one, even if there's like a business meeting or a round table organisational chat, I'm normally the only one that puts my hand up and says something, or I've got a question. And I think, it's a good way to live.
Yeah, it is. And the whole brave thing kind of goes around the idea of risk, for example. What's the worst thing that can happen, Neil, in a meeting if you ask a question?
Exactly. They say we'll take it offline. Or
but what's the worst that can happen? When I think about moving to London, the way I kind of rationalise it in my head just came around the idea of what's the worst that can happen. A lot of people that are watching this podcast, their parents are still probably married, their parents still probably own a house, their parents probably have jobs and they're still doing their bits and pieces. And we were in that similar situation where if all went wrong in London, I lost all my money, I was in a terrible situation, I could just move back home. And let's be honest, there are people in much worse situations where they're sleeping in bus shelters and all sorts of things. But I still had family to go home to. And a lot of people who are listening to this do have that as well. So, the risk aspect of things was very low. I wasn't going to be homeless. I was still going to have clothes on my back. I was still going to eat. But the lessons I could have learned from going and moving to a place like London would have been incredible. And it has been incredible. And here we are. So it's the same kind of thing as if you're considering quitting your job, for example. If you're in your 20s, and like I say, you're in a position where there's privilege to a certain degree in the sense that if your mum and dad are still together and you've got somewhere to live and the clothes on your back and whatever else, why are you not going for the job that you want to go for? Yeah. Why are you not quitting the crappy thing that you don't enjoy? Why are you not starting the business that you want to do? Why are you not creating the YouTube channel that you want? Why are you not writing that book that you've always thought about doing? Why have you not gone travelling? Just go for it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a decent first one.
All right, yeah. I went heavy on that, so hopefully my other ones are going to be good. Neil?
Mine are slightly different because Gordon's taken an approach of this is what his younger self wants to learn or wants to articulate. Mine are more day-to-day things that'll maybe make your life better. So first one I've got is visualize your day, week, month, life, whatever kind of time frame you want. And I do this, every single day. I will go to bed at night, lie on my pillow, and just think exactly from the moment I wake up, if I'm going to go for a run, right, where's my running shoes, where's my shorts, where's my top, I need to get out the door. And then after my run, what am I going to do? I'm going to have a shower, I'm going to have breakfast, I'm going to get the kids ready. And having that kind of plan in your head, not necessarily written down, I think it's a great way to start the day. And you can also do that in a monthly, what's your goals for the month, what's your yearly plan, and that kind of thing. So I think visualization is powerful. I can't remember, it was a Tim Ferriss podcast I learned about that from. I can't remember who it was. But do you ever do that kind of thing, Gordon? If you've got a really stressful day and you wanted to go perfect, would you Like, just through the thoughts in your head. Think about each step.
It's a step-by-step process. You're kind of breaking down what it takes to get to the end point. Do I visualize it? I suppose I use visualization when I often went through things that I found particularly difficult. So if you're in the middle of something that you're, like you say, you're stressed, you're anxious,
a lot on your plate,
you are hungry, you're tired, like all those kind of things, I often use visualization to think of, well, I'm stuck in the mud right now, or I'm certainly, trying to wade my way through it. What's it like? What does it feel like at the end?
Yeah,
so if I complete all of these like quite difficult tasks and all these things that I was doing, I was visualizing. So I remember when I was competing in bodybuilding, certainly in the early days, and I'd be up early doing my sort of fasted cardio at the time, and I'd have to get up and I'd have to get to the treadmill, and I'd have to do like an hour of walking before breakfast, and that was really hard. Like, that was really tough. So I often would be on the treadmill, like thinking about winning the competition. Like, that's what I would think about. I would be constantly thinking about, well, what is it going to be like if I win this competition? It's going to feel amazing, and that would get me through that type of hardship, if you will. So I suppose I'd use visualization like that rather than sort of formulating a plan necessarily, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to do it. And when I ran my first marathon, I was the same. I visualized crossing that finish line. And yeah, that's another way to use it. But I find, especially when I've got 3 kids, now a bakery, now work, I want to train, there's a lot to do in my day, and I want to read a book, I want to do stretching, whatever. I find the night before, if I visualise what I'm going to do each day, then it helps.
Yeah, pretty sound advice, really, to be honest. I found that writing things down, but maybe you're going to go into that at some point, at another time.
Yeah.
Next one from me. This frustrates me. I think of all the things that I think about when I perhaps talk to a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old. At that time, you should be working hard and playing hard, like working every hour that you can possibly think of. Going to see your friends whenever you can. You have more time and more flexibility and more freedom than you ever can imagine. And if, like, again, it goes back to my Bree Bave point, is, if you're like, hey, I want to start a business, or I'm trying to do this thing or whatever else. Yeah, but I want a bit more sleep, or I don't want to feel as tired, or whatever else. Like, I get it. I get it. It's hard, but if you wouldn't believe what you can achieve by adding in, going to bed a bit later and working super hard. It frustrates me because you have, at the age of 20, you don't realise how much time you have, how much freedom, how much flexibility, and sure, I'm looking at it from the top down instead. I'm kind of looking down and saying, yeah, you can do this thing, and maybe you're going through something and whatever else. But the vast majority of people in this country that are 20-something, like I say, have parents that are married, that have a house, that are able to support them and keep them going. You can do this. Like, if you're in your 20s, you can work, you can do 10, 12, 15-hour days.
Yeah, yeah.
And also the ability to, if you are in a situation where you don't enjoy your job, you can go out there and you can work hard and you can find something else and you can do something else. And you can, like I say now, the internet, it has so many avenues for you to earn money from joining up to things like Fiverr and becoming a freelancer and learning how to do Photoshop or video editing, to starting a YouTube channel and your own sort of side hustle, to selling goods and things on the internet where you don't even have to see the goods. You can just drop ship them these days, where somewhere else will manage it for you. Like, there's so many ways you can make money and not have to do the job that you want to do. And when you're 20, you have so much time and freedom to be able to do something about it. So just, like, please work hard and play hard. Like, don't worry about not getting sleep. Like, don't worry about being tired. Like, just... Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit old school with that mentality, but I think so.
No, I think you're right, and don't waste time on social media. Like, just endlessly scrolling. I mean, it sounds quite trivial, but you look at your usage, and especially as a 20-something-year-old, you're going to be on Snapchat, Instagram, all these things for hours and hours a day, and that could be spent on a business.
And it could be, but equally, it's more the consciousness of the fact that you're on social media. Are you a consumer, or are you a creative consumer?
Yes.
So
yes.
are you just sat there scrolling, looking through nonsense? Or are you thinking, oh, that looks like really cool kind of angle. Maybe I can create that in my YouTube video. Or that looks like a cool kind of post. I'll maybe try and replicate that and put it on my Instagram page. That kind of thing, I get that stuff. But if you're just sat there sort of mindlessly like, next, nah, like you're not really doing very well.
Yeah.
What's your next one, Neil?
Good. Quite a simple one, and you kind of touched on it, but making a list. And again, sounds very, very trivial and just something that is quite a small thing to do, but I find in any part of my life, I mean, this year, it wasn't part of my kind of New Year's resolution, but every day this year so far, I've done a kind of gratitude journal. So 3 things you're grateful for and 3 things you want to complete that day. And I think I'd say 95% of the stuff I write down in what I want to complete that day, I will achieve. And I think it's a great way to kind of keep you on point. And also, if you've got a lot of stuff going on in your life, if you're pretty stressed, like I give this advice to Rebecca quite a lot when she's got her bakery, just sit down for 5 minutes and make a list. Everything that's going through your head, just stick it on a list and work through it. You can prioritize it, you can rearrange it, you can maybe move things to another day. But having it in your head and having it going around your head, I think it just doesn't help anybody, especially in today's crazy world. So yeah, making a list is
there's something about that. There's something about that tactile nature of actually writing it down. So taking yourself away from the sort of digital nature of note taking these days and list taking, but writing it down and ticking it off. I think there are some. I'd watched some Matt Diavella videos. I don't know if you've ever seen any of his stuff.
Yeah. He's
got a cool minimalist, the Minimalist Netflix documentary. But he did some stuff where if he was doing like the gym or his cold shower thing or whatever else, he'd put up. You can get these whiteboards that you can stick on the wall, and it would be like a Monday to Sunday, and he would tick off each day because he'd do like a 30-day challenge. But when he did it. I think Atomic Habits as well talks about it in his book, in James Clear, where it's that tactile thing of like, hey, I've got my list, I'm going to tick it off each day. And that physicality seems to have a real positive effect in terms of, your association with completing a task, and then thus completing more tasks after that, which I think is a really cool way to do it. So lists and maybe adding to that the analog nature of...
I also look at, like, I have a relatively relaxed Friday in terms of the kids go to nursery, and most of the days is pretty chilled, but I want to make the most of the day. So I generally in the morning, I'll say, right, what do I want to do? Do I want to do some meal prep? Do I want to do a food shop? Do I want to go for a run? And just plan that out in a list, and it just helps. I just have to tick things off. And also, while I'm talking about that, is if you ever struggle getting to sleep, like you've got hundreds of things going around your head, just leave a notepad and pen by your bedside, or maybe not your phone because you might get distracted, but certainly if you've got something going around your head, write it down, get it out of your head. And generally I find that helps me sleep better. If I'm stressing about something, if I'm worked up about something, if I just write it down on a bit of paper, I know it's stored there, I can get it in the morning.
Yeah, that's a good bit of advice. I think I've told a lot of clients over the years. Laura just made a nice appearance on the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube. That's I've told a lot of clients to be able to do that if they're stressing about thinking about something overall. The next one for me was being very aware of things like debt and the status game overall, because it's very easy these days to get a credit card. You can get a credit card when you're 18. You can get bank overdrafts and all sorts of bits and pieces, and that's living in the now moment. There's not much of a future when you're not looking at the future much when you're sort of 20. You're not thinking, well, if I take this loan out for 10 years and it's £10,000 and it has a 19% APR rate, that's a lot you're having to pay back over that time.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately as well, the financial freedom aspect isn't necessarily just about having more money. It's also about managing outgoings. So if you have debts, make sure they're bloody good ones. It's not a car payment. It's not a credit card debt. It's not a mobile phone. It's not because you bought a bunch of Gucci hoodies. It's not because you bought a bunch of nice trainers. The debt's maybe on a mortgage because you managed to save up and get that, and that's potentially an appreciating asset. So be very aware of debt and how that can potentially impact you. And be aware if you're getting into debt because you're trying to play the status game. This is a book I'm reading at the moment, hence why I'm using the words. But the status game is largely you playing with friends and the symbols that come along with those that they want to play along with. So things like it's money, it can be designer clothes, it can be fancy restaurants, it can be clubs, tables at clubs, it can be fancy alcohol, all those kind of things. And be very aware that if you're playing that game and trying to keep up with it. If you earn a great salary, fair enough, okay, enjoy yourself, but maybe most people don't. And getting into debt, using your credit cards, buy now, pay laters, like, you've got to be aware of that. And if you can't keep up with these types of people, or other friends are doing it and they're getting into debt for it, like, don't create that circle for yourself, because the impact can be so lasting down the line. And if you are getting into debt, and this is maybe sort of encroaching onto one of my other ones, are you getting into debt, like I say, for the right reasons? You know, are you buying a house? Are you using it to help further your life, build experiences that are life-changing? Like, are you going on holiday somewhere that you've always wanted to go on? Are you going on safari somewhere? Like, all those kind of things. So, yeah, I just think it's too easy to get into debt these days. It's a bit scary to think about the ramifications of that will impact your ability to get... Like, you don't think that when you're 20, you don't think when I'm 30 and I want to buy a house that £10,000 loan that I've taken off and haven't paid, that impacts your ability to get a mortgage, and quite severely. Especially if you've not paid it back very well, you've missed some payments, or just the fact that you're on the edge of trying to afford a certain amount, a certain price of house. You need a certain ability to afford that, or your amount of money that you can borrow will be impacted by the amount of money that you currently borrowed. So, yeah, sorry, I was a bit rambly, but
yeah, no, I think that's pretty solid advice.
Because you don't have any debt beyond sort of your house and things, do you?
No. Certainly, I think we touched on it in the kind of financial chat we had, episode 2 or 3. I've had credit cards of maybe 1,500 to $2,000 and managed to pay them off, but it's always that I've managed to pay them off. I mean, if I had lost my job, or if Rebecca and I had a worst case scenario, something happened to the income that we had, then that would have been affected. So we took a bit of a gamble, but generally things like buying a new boiler for the house, they're expensive things. So if you do need that boiler, for example, our boiler broke in the height of winter, we had no real choice. We didn't have the cash in the bank to buy one, so we had to put it on a credit card, and we've managed to pay it off now. It's all gone. But those kind of examples, if you're, I guess, in an emergency, you're mature enough and understand the financial game a little bit, then I don't see that it's not a massive negative buying a boiler on a credit card. I'm pretty sure, Neil, you buying a boiler is not a status game. You're not going out. You're not going out in the streets. You're not going, lads. True. I just bought my new boiler. It's a combi. It's really, really nice. Yeah, it heats my 5-bed house really well, efficiently. Yes. So I suppose, down the line, it's quite nice that I have a credit card that I don't even know how much the limit is. It's ridiculous. It's 5 figures anyway. Yeah. And it's nice to know that if anything happens, then I do have that ability to tap into it if necessary. But again, I just hope I never have to get into that situation. Yeah. And you shouldn't be in that situation, or you probably won't be in that situation when you're 20. Let's be honest. Yeah, true. And credit cards, if you, and again, talking from us, if we've got our money in a stocks and shares ISA, it can take a few days to get that out. So there might be an emergency happen or tomorrow. A credit card's a good way just to pay it right there and then you can arrange to transfer money, whatever accounts, whatever ISAs you've got them in. Yeah, only use them if you've already got money in the bank, potentially. Yes. Cool. My next one, my next two, they're going to go hand in hand. So exercise is your friend, and eating well is more important than you probably think. So this kind of goes into maybe our late teens, 20s, and people might not be so aware of like what are you doing to your body? What are you putting into your body? Is it drugs, lots of alcohol, just rubbish food? I think people at that age and that kind of mindset might not understand the impact it's having. And exercise is your friend. I want to encourage everyone to do some sort of exercise. I think it's very important, even if it's just going for a walk, get your 10,000 steps a day. I think it's great for your mental health, great for your cardiovascular system, all that good stuff. So, yeah, just keep fit and healthy. If Ben, Isla, Lewis, Olivia, you're listening to this, and I'm not here anymore, just exercise is your friend.
Yeah, and that's solid. You know, I think it's also the fact that if I'm coming at this from a 20-year-old, you think you're kind of invincible to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Like, how many times would you go out for a drink and then be able to get up at 4 or 5, 6 in the morning to go and then do some work? Like, now I can do that. Like, the recovery is horrendous.
Yeah.
So you don't really think about the impact that health can have on your long-term outcomes. There were 2 particular papers that I saw with men and women in reference to how healthy they were or how much healthier they were. One comparing a 70-year-old sedentary man, so a man who was sitting doing nothing, and then one of an active triathlete 70-year-old man. Similar ages, I don't think they were about 70. But the muscle mass and the amount of fat that they were carrying was a stark difference, like a phenomenal difference. And like the bone density as well was just ridiculous. And you think the ramifications for that are largely around, do they trip and fall? And if they do trip and fall, are they likely to break a hip or a bone or whatever else? And then if they do, how long are they going to have to spend in hospital? Because it takes much longer for them to recover because their muscle mass is much lower, their fat content is much higher, their bone density is much lower. All these types of things. And then talking about cardiovascular health as well. Like, are they able to circulate better, to recover better? And you do. When you exercise, you're less time in hospital, you get less serious ramifications of surgeries and things. And then even the female version was powerlifting, these female powerlifters in their 50s going through the menopause. They obviously squatted and deadlifted and all sorts of bits and pieces. But their bone structure was that of a 20-year-old.
Wow.
And again, that ramification of, if you trip and fall, what happens?
Yeah.
And are you strong enough to get up off the floor? And the investment doesn't start at 70. You're not 55 and doing and starting to do weights. It's when you're 20-something. It's when you're a teenager. And ingraining, like you say, that exercise aspect that is part of your life and it's something you should definitely continue to do is not just a short-term feel-good investment for the girls down on the beach. It's also that really long-term thing for, Christ, when you fall over and you can't get up.
Yeah, yeah.
And that segues nicely, Neil, into my my next little one.
We planned that one, didn't we?
You did it very well. It's largely the sort of buying experiences in long-term happiness and health. So I talked about the status game sort of thing. But equally, I'm going through this period at the moment in my life where me and Laura have managed to save up. We feel like we've saved up a lot of money. And I've had to work hard for it. Laura's had to work hard for it. We've got lucky with certain things like our other house that increased in value, blah, blah, blah. But it feels really good just to look at the number every so often and be like, "Ooh, this feels really nice. Like, I like this money number." But what is money? It's very easy to be frugal and saving cash all the time and building it up in your bank account and just leaving it there and then, scrimping and scraping here, not spending there, and trying to get a deal there. But really, what is money? Money is something to be used. And if you do use it for experiences and also things that are potentially going to impact your long-term happiness and your health. So by experiences, I mean things like going on holiday with your friends, going on holiday with your partner, by going for that really nice dinner once every so often together that costs a lot of money, that does eat into that pot of cash that you've been saving up. But I know that things like when I took Mum to New York, when we flew first class to New York, that cost a lot of money. That was well over £1,000, including some points and vouchers and whatever else. And that was a lot of money to me at that time. But that felt amazing. Like, I remember all that now. And even spending, I think we've talked about it, the traveling thing cost us like 50 grand or whatever it was over the year. Again, that was like a top 3 feelings in my life. And I could have had that £50,000 just sat in a bank account, sure. But what was I using it for? Like, what was it doing for me? Because we only get an actualization of money once we use it. So why not use it for experiences? And then the other one is, as well, is if you are going to spend a lot of money on something, why shouldn't it be impacting your long-term happiness and your health? So, you might suggest, I might say to you, Neil, why are you not spending £200 a month on a personal trainer or a gym that has personal training in it?
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot. £200 a month is a lot of money to spending on something, but you wouldn't say that spending £200 a month if you could get up off the floor 25, 50 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be like, hell, that was the best investment I ever made in my life.
Yeah, getting in and out your Bentley.
but you know what I mean, Neil.
Yeah.
Like that if I know it's expensive, but like, is there any better way to spend your money than helping your long-term happiness and health? I don't think there is.
I definitely agree with that, but there's probably a point that I would be conscious of, and it's all well and good having this £200 a month thing you're going out for a fancy restaurant, but make sure you've got that emergency fund. Like,
all that stuff. I get all that. That's not. I'm not saying just be frivolous with your money. Like, go nuts and just spend it all. But what I'm saying is that, sure, sometimes it can feel like a lot of money, but then if you're spending it on the things that ultimately will contribute towards your health and happiness, like, why wouldn't you buy a really good pair of running trainers that cost £200, Neil? Like, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of money, but ultimately you'll get excited to use them. They'll be very comfortable. They'll make you run more, which will ultimately help your long-term happiness and health.
Yeah.
Maybe people could argue, like, you just buy a cheap pair of trainers, but usually when you spend more, you get slightly more in terms of quality and things. So I don't know.
Yeah, especially if you look at trainers, maybe not your Gucci ones, but the Nikes that got carbon fiber and stuff, they will make a marginal difference.
Have you not got a pair yet? I was trying to convince you to get a pair.
I know. No, I haven't. I mean, I am due to. They recommend replacing them every 500 miles. Trainers 500 miles. I'm almost there.
Right, I think you should get them, and I've still contributed for your birthday, so I look forward to seeing you wearing them.
Okay, cool, nice one. So my last one is never stop learning. And I wish I realised this when I was 15, 16, early 20s. Just how much knowledge is out there. Like I obviously knew there's books, I knew there's YouTube, and I think now we're in our 30s, there's probably more of it. Especially podcasts are coming on a far more audible for your books and stuff. It's coming on leaps and bounds. But yeah, just never stop learning. There's so much free stuff out there that you can learn from, or you can buy a really cheap book off Amazon or charity shop. But just keep that mind ticking. Like learn about new experiences, learn about what other people have done. Learn about finances, your health, just anything. And
it's a bit like this podcast.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the things with this podcast has been really fun is doing like a project with Neil. And the project, it seems kind of like, you're just learning bits and pieces, but I've learned a lot about podcasting in a very short period of time. Like from the technology stuff, so the things that, for example, the equipment that we're using, I would have never known we needed an amplifier. Or this little thing that you plug in that helps basically create a better signal for the microphone to make it sound better. Yeah. Like all those types of things, like the USB-C interface we use things like Euphonic, which is like an editing thing to make it sound really good. We use Descript to take out some of like the ums and ahs, which is all automatic AI stuff, to conversing with people on like Canva and Fiverr and Freelancer and these types of websites to get channel art done, to using Riverside, which we do to record these podcasts. Like that's all learning experiences. And it's even having like hobbies outside of it. So, weekends, could you go and do a carpentry class? Weekends, could you go and do a plumbing class, like electrics? Could you go and learn how to edit a YouTube video? Like I like that, Neil, and I think it's, never stop learning. Isn't you learning about mathematics or necessarily finance and learning a language and that kind of thing? It can literally be like setting up a podcast with your brother, and you learn all about the things that go wrong and the things that go well and how you can work together and coming up with ideas, and like that's a pretty cool learning process. And
there's just talking about the learning thing. There's a guy a couple of years ago now. He's retired, but anyway, I was working with him. He was a colleague of mine, and at nights he used to go to a college. He was paying for it himself. Go to a college and do mechanics. He did it for 2 years, like car mechanics, and his aim was he's going to retire and drive this camper van all around the world, and he wanted to be able to fix it. He didn't want to rely on garages and other things. So he did the course, he passed it, and he's still in his camper van going around the world. And he's like 60 odd.
Wow, why have we not got him on a podcast?
I can see him. I kind of lost contact, but I could see if we could reach out to him.
Do you reckon he'd be up for doing a podcast, or is he not that kind of...
Yeah, I don't know.
That's mental.
I know. And like I was really inspired by it. Like he's coming to the end of his career where you think that I'm just going to settle down and switch off. But no, he's learning how to fix cars and camper vans at college. And he was the oldest guy by like, I don't know, some margin in the class. Most of them are like 16 to 20. And you're just
that's brilliant. But that's I want to be like that.
Yeah.
You know, because my aspirations are to hopefully retire when I'm 55.
Yeah.
And I want to have the gusto or the gravitas, I think is what my English teacher told me once. If I found the gravitas, if I can find that, then doing these kind of things, that would be so cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like imagine not having to go to a garage again and just being able to fix your own car.
Yeah, but even like carpentry and plumbing and electrics and all that kind of stuff, like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, so never stop learning.
Yeah, very good. One of my big ones that I've been saving for last. Hope anyone who's listening to this point enjoys this one. It's the sort of permissionless entrepreneur. So we're always like living our lives, you know, curious. Well, again, I'm being very kind of generalistic, but perhaps we're thinking about too much about what people think about us. Do they are concerning ourselves of what we're seeing, how we're seeing it, how we're behaving, which is all well and good, but it often stops us doing things. So why not do stuff that you can apologize for later?
Yeah.
There's rarely things that we do, like, you know, aside from like stabbing people and assaulting people in the street and whatnot, there's very little that people do that cause people genuine harm. You know, you might piss someone off by doing something that was maybe a little bit too close to the edge or whatever else, but it's not like people don't drive 40 miles an hour in a 30. And it's not like you can't go, ooh, okay, sorry, I don't mean to do that. Like, it's not great, but it's not something that people are going to like put you in jail for.
Yeah.
So you should be living your life in a way in which you can apologize for something later. And I think that opens up so much. Where if you're at work, you know, I think this is a big thing that's pushed at my work, is that if you've got an idea, just go with it. Like, run with it. If it's just a bit of time that it's costing us, but it could be a great idea, like, crack on. Don't wait for me to give you permission to go and do it. Like, just go and do it. And I'll give you feedback on it afterwards. And this was the same thing with the Procrastination Diaries. It was an idea that I had, and I just started filming it. And everyone's like, yeah, this is really cool. Here's some refinement. Let's do that. Rather than being like, hey, I've got this idea. What do you think? You know, should we do it? Or waiting on it for ages. Like, honestly, I look back on... I was thinking about kind of, you know, how I've got to the point of this videographer thing after doing personal training for so long. And do you remember when I went out to like clubs and took pictures?
Yeah, I was going to actually bring that up in another episode of like businesses we've tried and failed.
Yeah, we can go over that, I suppose. And I won't talk about tried and failed, but it goes along the line of this permissionless entrepreneur thing. Like, I was working as a trainee manager in a hotel. I think I was 18 or 19, so some 16 odd years ago. I had a digital camera, and I had this idea. Zoomy.co.uk, yeah. And I had this idea where I was like, oh, I could go and take pictures in clubs and then sell like advertising on the back of these on my business cards, or sell the pictures or whatever else. So I'd finish my shift at like 10 or 11 p.m. in the hotel. I'd go out and I'd literally walk up to the doors of clubs. I'd never met them before. I'd talk to bouncers and just be like, hey, I'm a photographer, I'm going to do some club photography. Can I come in? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. Yeah. So I'd go in, take the pictures, and then I'd go home, edit them. I don't know, it was a terrible idea because I was up till like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd work the next day at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, or the same day. So, but at the same time, it was like that permissionlessness entrepreneurship where you're just like, screw it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I could have waited. I could have like sent some emails or made some phone calls or whatever else. Nah, it's a bit different when you're at the door on the night and in front of the manager and saying, hey, can I come and take some pictures and I do this thing?
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
And not worrying too much about what people think about it and how you're behaving and what you're doing and whatever else. It's just try and do it and then learn from it, learn from the experience rather than planning and thinking about it and waiting and whatever else.
Yeah, maybe that dovetails into our next episode. We could talk about businesses.
Dovetails. Maybe we can. Maybe we can talk about businesses and things we've tried to do. And then the last one, because I know Neil's done through all of his, was sort of trying to define what you actually want a little bit more and like dig deeper. Don't just be like, hey, I want to buy a Ferrari or I want to buy a house or whatever else. You know, define to yourself what happiness is, or at least have some sort of like idea of what happiness is. Is happiness you living in Inverurie and owning a farm? Is happiness for you being able to take your kids to school at some point in your life. And I think that then helps lay out the road for the rest of your life, potentially. Like the types of choices that you might be making. Because you then align your actions with those goals. Because if you're like, that's one of my big things is I want to be able to take Olivia to school and potentially pick her up as well. Maybe not every single day of the week, but at least I have the flexibility within my job to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And if I can't do that, then I have to reconsider what my position is, regardless of potentially how much I earn or what I do.
Yeah, yeah.
So, early on in your 20s, I'm sure it probably will change over time, but at the end of the day, defining that outside of these materialistic items, really thinking about, well, what does happiness look like for me? Like, can I envisage that? And if I can, then I need to be able to think about my actions and how they're aligning with those goals. So, yeah, that was kind of like that was my last one. But hopefully,
it's a pretty solid one to end on, and it kind of comes into what I mentioned about visualization. Even if it's the next day you want to visualize it, or the next week or month or year, I think it's important to have that 5-year plan of what you want to do, where you want to be in life.
I don't know about 5-year plans, and that's why I kind of go down the route more of what do I want, rather than sort of saying, this is my 3-year plan, my 5-year plan, because in your 30s, yes, I think it's probably better for you to think about, well, do I take this 5-year fixed mortgage? Am I going to be kicking around because it's a better deal? Because you're going to have kids and stuff, it's unlikely you'll be moving around as much.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, when you're 20, it's less so about having sort of 1 year, 2 year, 5-year plans, but actually more about defining, well, what do you want
from life? Yeah, no,
sitting down and actually saying, like, what do I want from this?
Yeah.
Because I think that helps you then define your actions a little bit more. Because if you sat there and you're saying to yourself, I'm not happy. Okay, well, what does happiness mean to you? And why, or what is happiness to you? And then you can start to work out, well, okay, this is not making me happy, so I need to change it. How do I change it? And it starts that kind of process. Yeah. But if you sort of sat down and said, I'm 20 and when I'm 25, I want to own my own property. Sure, you can do that. But I'll bet your bottom dollar that you're not really thinking about that as deeply as you could, or working towards it as hard as you could, because you're invincible, right? You can do whatever you want. You've only lived for 20 years of your life. There's not really much. Nothing can stop you. But it can if you sort of sit down and go, well, what's actually going to make me happy? Because if you're at university and you're doing a degree that you're not really enjoying and you're not having fun with, like, why are you doing it?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, be a bit careless and drop out and go travelling. That's going to make you happier. I don't know.
Good. I like that.
Good. Well, I'm glad, Neil. I'm glad it was helpful. What's your plans for the rest of the week?
What's my plans? Finish off today, work-wise. Then, I don't really. Oh, I'm meant to be climbing a mountain on Saturday, actually, but weather dependent.
Just a casual mountain.
The snow is coming down really heavy. That's why I keep looking out the window. It's like a whiteout just now. So
wow.
We'll see how that goes. But there's not really major plans. Going out Saturday night with a couple of friends.
Nice.
Just local. So
I haven't done that for a while. What are we doing? Well, we've moved into this, a new location. If you're watching this on YouTube, we've moved into my in-laws' house. So it's just 5 minutes up the road from us. We've got our foundations, like I said, getting laid this week, hopefully. But this weekend, we have a surprise baby shower. So it's friends of ours. They are very close to popping. So we wanted to do a little surprise for her.
Are you going to that baby shower? I thought it was just a women's thing.
I don't think you can say that anymore, Neil.
Oh, okay.
It's just a women's thing. Yeah, you might want to take that back. What's this podcast been made famous for? Misogyny.
It'll come back and bite me in 10 years' time.
Probably. But we, so we've got this baby shower thing. It's just the 4 of us, so it's 2 dads and the mum-to-be. And we'll take Olivia. But it's a bit of a surprise. And then Sunday, that's a good point, actually. What have we got on Sunday? I think we have a Wix appointment. So we're off to go and see another kitchen-y thingy-jobber. And that's it. That's our weekend. And it's Isla's birthday on Sunday, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So she had her party last week, but yeah, she's got her actual birthday on Sunday.
A 7-year-old.
I know. And for the listeners, we might actually get a face-to-face podcast. We'll maybe try and schedule one.
Oh, yeah. At the end of March. Is that when is it March you're coming? 10th.
End of March.
End of March, yeah.
25th.
Sweet. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I'll have to borrow some kit or something from work, or I've got some bits at work. We could probably do it at work. Maybe see if Ali wants to come on.
Well, I was thinking, like, that Friday, I'm not working, so the 25th.
All right.
Could be
I'll see what Ali
nice.
says. He might be up for doing a little Greenhorn / Ali podcast. See if his brother Timur wants to join us, and we can do an Abdal Greenhorn podcast.
Yeah. That'd be good.
All right, Neil. Well, it's been fantastic. I'm glad we managed to get this in. As always, once a week, we get it out on a Monday. I hope you have a lovely weekend, and hope all the listeners. We're approaching 400 downloads, which feels pretty cool.
Yeah, and a few people have messaged me saying they actually prefer watching on YouTube.
Oh.
Which, fair play to them.
All right, yeah, fine. All right, fair enough. But either way, Neil, hope you have a great weekend, and I'll chat to you next week.
Cheers. Goodbye.